Good day and welcome back to Elementary 72 Gaming. Before I get into this video, I'd like to ask you all to please leave a like or comment on my video and consider subscribing to my channel. Now, today's video is actually going to cover HiSec, and it's going to be covering the last three activities that compare HiSec to NullSec, and that is T6 missions, T8 missions, and T10 missions. And that's going to be compared against Inquisitors, Scouts, and Deadspace. Now, from the two, we are going to do two different analysis. That's going to be the maximum reward value and the minimum reward value as of the current meta and what people have gotten out of these activities. Now, we are going to compare them at minimum value. That's going to be the straight up value of the activity versus each other, because there is a chance of you getting 0 drops within a dead space. So please bear with it. These are going to be really abrupt figures. Now, let's go with the first one of those activities, and that's going to be the the T6 versus the Scouts. So T6 versus Scouts, let's see how it goes in terms of a quick analysis. In terms of T6, we have one activity within it called the mission, the T6 mission in HiSec. So the T6 mission is on a value of 20 million at its maximum, plus it has a reward chest with it worth 2 million at the bare minimum, plus it has loot in it worth on average about maybe 10 million. So yes, you get 32 million on the low end from a T6 mission. On the high end from a T6 mission, if you open the box instead of sell the box, you can make on average 60 million from one T6 encounter. Yes, that is the reward from the T6 encounter. That's because of the loot drops within it and their value in terms of putting them on the market. So let's go on to the next thing within the T6 level encounters, and let's see what there is within that region. So T6 level encounters is where I started off with this whole thing, and let's see their comparison to the Scout. Well, a Scout's minimum value reward with all the loot included into it from a T10 is about 20 million ISK. Yes, you heard that correctly, 20 million ISK. All of this includes bounties, by the way, in case you're thinking that I'm omitting bounties. 20 million ISK. That is the minimum you can make out of a Scout. And the maximum you can make out of the Scout is around 200 million ISK. And that is confirmed before the patch. So that was the only one that I could get, because players haven't been taking on T10 since the patch came out so regularly, and nobody has been taking on T10 Scouts. So forgive me for those figures. That's all that I could actually get on it. For now, that's all that I'm going to be able to base my opinions on. So let's go with the rest of it. What would you get from the T6 at the maximum value? 200 mil. And from the 60 mil from the T6, 200 mil from the Scout. That's their maximum comparison. So maximum is 140 million bonus from taking on a T10 Scout. There is a catch. You can take on the missions in T6 in just under 15 minutes with the right vessel. So 15 minutes to complete those activities versus the hours to complete the higher level activity. Yeah, unfortunately, that means that reward is way out of order. It isn't going to stay at that low figure. Now, there is travel time to include for both activities. I'm going to omit them completely. Remember, you're not guaranteed to get a Scout right outside your base, so you might have to travel 5 systems to get to a Scout. You're going to count in that travel time, the scouting time, everything that you have to do along the route to get there. All of that is being counted out because you have to take calculated risks in NullSec. You don't just run around like a wild pilot. Okay, so there we go with the first two things that needed to be taken off from that particular sector. So NullSec had the risk analysis. We're counting it as the same amount of travel time as you would in HiSec, even though there is that massive bonus of 100% time. So let's go into the mission. Let's say it's 15 minutes and you do all 4 in 15 minutes apiece. That is 240 million for the time comparison of an hour. Let me just double check. 60, 122, yeah, 240 million for the time comparison. It is 40 million ISK more in value than the nearest competing scout, the same level activity. Let's get into T8. Now, T8 is a different story. T8 is a way bigger ball game. T8 has the maximum reward of 60 million ISK. Not maximum, sorry. The base reward from the highest paying T8 mission as 60 million ISK. I could be wrong and it could be one for 120. If that is my mistake, I'm really sorry about that. Then I'm underestimating this activity by a lot. So 120 million, and it is going to be T8. Obviously, it is comparable to the highest level scout in nullsec. That will be a T10 scout, and the maximum that I've heard of someone pulling out of a T10 scout is 600 million ISK. Now, from the lower level scouts, I know that people have pulled out almost a billion, but it's not that consistent, and it is extremely rare for someone to pull out a billion. And also, the person who pulled out a billion built their rigs. They didn't just sell their rigs at the 100 mil mark on the market. So yeah, I'm not really counting it as a solid billion. They maybe had somewhere near 500 million out of it instead of the 600 million that that other player had. He had mining rigs, and that's what gave him his massive value. Sorry about this. I'm just struggling to get to the loot. So when it came to the whole activity of Inquisitors, the value from the base level Inquisitor can be 10. Okay, wait, sorry. The lowest I've received from a T10 myself has been 2 million ISK. Yes, it can get really, really low. That's because even in the T10, you can get lower level rigs. So yeah, 10 million. That is the lowest that I've ever gotten out of one of them. So no, sorry, it was 2 million, my mistake. But I'm gonna count it as 10 million because there was a really, really rare bear drop. So yeah, 10 million out of the Inquisitor. That is the minimum. Burst the minimum you can make out of. I'm forgetting the box again. There will be another 20 million box added to this mission. So that's 80 million. So 20 mil versus 10 mil versus 80 mil, a 70 million difference on the minimum outcome from these activities. On time, while the T10 Scout is a difficult activity, it can take you 1.5 to 2 hours. The T8 mission can take you 30 to 1.5 hours. Now, the reason why it's 30 minutes to 1.5 hours is there's way too many travel stops in between for me to omit that time. So that is why it's going to be 30 to 1.5 hours, depending on the ships you are running and depending on your speed of completion. If you are running big ships, it's 1.5 hours, easy activity, quick and easy completion. So yeah, that's unfortunate. And if you want to count it as 30 minutes for your fastest, no, sorry, 45 minutes for your fastest completion, I was missing a wave on that big mission. So yeah, 45 minutes to complete the T8. And I know that there is quite a quick completion, but that's for a solo pilot with the right ship. Going up against these missions, they aren't that difficult. So let's move on to the next aspect of this entire low sec versus null sec within this entire region. That's the maximum values. So of the T8 mission with the 60 mil box, with the 60 mil ISK reward and the 20 mil box, the max value that you can make off the box is 80 million for one of the items. I don't know if it's still 80 mil. I'll just have to check up in a few minutes. Let's just bring it down to 60 mil for safety's sake. So 60 mil times 1, 2, 3, 3 items from that box. So 60 mil times 3, that is 180 mil. And as I said, fastest completion is 45, so you can maximum do is 2. So 180 plus 60, that's 240, double that, that's 480 mil. That is the maximum you can pull out of your Inquisitors. Sorry, not Inquisitors, of your T8 missions. And the maximum that you can squeeze out of your Deadspace is going to be, not Deadspace, sorry, your Inquisitor is going to be 600 mil. So 600 versus 480, it's 120 mil on the optimistic side if you do a scout and get lucky. So there's the aspect of luck. So maximum, if you are a very lucky person, it's better to be in nullsec. And remember, there's other items in nullsec that I have omitted because the Inquisitor has the same travel time as a small mission. That's how come the time was reduced by quite a bit. On average, it takes people about 2.5 to 3 hours to complete Inquisitors or Scouts. All of that has been omitted for travel time. Okay, now moving on to the next issue of these activities in Inquisitor Scouts. The next activity is the Deadspace versus the T10 missions. Now, the highest paying T10 mission is 300 million. Its box is worth 20 million on the lowest, so 320 mil at its lowest value. T10 Deadspace solo is impossible. I haven't heard of anybody completing a T10 Deadspace solo. If you have completed one, I haven't heard about it. So yeah, T10 Deadspace, so far nobody has done it solo, not even with the big ships. So yeah, that's a big no-no in terms of this entire affair. Sorry about that. So T10 Deadspace. What is the maximum value that you could have earned out of it solo? 0. That is a massive hit, and its value when taken on by a team of 3, which is the smallest I've heard of completing a T10 Deadspace, is 2 billion ISK. So with the value of 2 billion being from a massive team being put into comparison for a single player, 2 billion is the maximum. Let's say that hypothetically you built up a Nightmare perfectly and you took on a T10 Deadspace solo and completed it without losing your ship. So yeah, the max you can make out of it is 2 billion on a single hit. Now let's go to the lower level mission, and I'm not talking about time on the T10. There is no time, because the fastest time I've done it with a team in a T10 Deadspace has been 2.5 hours. Now, I am not omitting travel time from the T10 Deadspace because a solo player would be killed. So I am going to put it in at 4 hours to complete the T10 Deadspace for 2 billion, right? So that is where the value of it is. So let's go into a T10 mission for 300 million. What is the fastest solo completion on it? 1.5 hours. Yes, you heard correctly. 1.5 hours to complete a T10 mission. Now, that isn't a team completion, that is a solo completion. And what is the maximum value you can pull out of it? Well, from its chest being a large chest and some of the items going really, really high in value, you can pull out 182, about 300 million ISK from it. So 300 mil plus the 300 mil, that's 600 mil, and that is a solo player's possible best outcome. Your worst outcome is 320 mil. Your worst outcome from the Deadspace is 0 minus the value of your highest value ship, 7 billion. So the lowest value for a Deadspace is minus 7 billion. The lowest value for a T10 mission completion, which you can do solo because players have done it solo on a regular basis, is 320 million. You can see the differences are quite huge. There's one which is totally on the 0. There's one which is totally on the positive there. The negatives on those ones are the big kickers. And the reward value at the maximum is 600 million versus 2 billion. So yes, there is a massive reward risk analysis. If you do have a ship which can take on a T10 Deadspace, I don't deny that it is possible, but the ability to complete it is going to take you hours and hours. So I'm going to give you that 4 billion at 4 hours. being the completion time for a solo player. I know that it isn't fair that I don't have any information on it. I haven't seen anybody post anything about completing a T10 Deadspace solo. I know players have completed T6, T7, T8, and T9 solo already, but nothing on a T10. So really sorry about that analysis. That is where it's going to have to stay. I can't do anything about changing the way that I gathered my facts. My facts were gathered by talking to players. And also the other thing about these activities is risk analysis. When it comes to the final risk analysis, T10, Inquisitors, Scout, and Deadspace, all three activities have a possibility of being attacked by players. So even being able to take on the mission parameters perfectly doesn't help you in that activity. There is a chance that even if you are the best player in the world, you could lose to that activity. It is a really unfortunate thing. The reason why you would lose is there is the addition of other players into your activity. They could kill you to take the loot at the end of the activity, or they could wait till your shield is really dropped down before they jump in and hit you. So yeah, those are all of the negatives that you could face. You could be attacked by a team while inside a Deadspace, Inquisitor, or Scout. All of these are possibilities, and that is why they always hold the negative value of 0 being a possibility. I didn't want to add that for all of them. It's only the Deadspace that I added the 0 possibility because it is a very strong chance that you will lose your ship. I know Phantasms get 2-shot killed with their shield field fully activated. I know a Nightmare got destroyed in 4 or 5 hits within the T10 Deadspace. They just jumped in, they didn't get a chance to destroy anything, they couldn't take out much of the enemy, and the ship was already gone with the shield field module active. With all of their modules active, the moment the damage control unit dropped their they had a damage control unit, they had double hardness to increase their value of shields, they had a double booster on it, so no ability to run. They got webbed, they got disrupted, and they couldn't get out of the activity when it started to pile up the damage very quickly. It takes 150 seconds to reactivate damage control, so don't say that I'm talking nonsense about the damage control not being active for very long. At that point, they took massive damage. The shields started to collapse really fast. They were losing shields faster than they were recovering, and at the end of that whole entire encounter, they lost their Nightmare. So a T10 Deadspace has claimed a Nightmare before. They did last for a small amount of time. I am estimating it to be 1 minute 40 seconds. That is because that is what I would think. I think it took them 5 volleys before they were totally gone. They said when they first jumped in, they did take damage even with the damage control unit on because of the severe amount of firepower they faced. It did tickle the damage into it. They were capable of repairing. The moment the damage control unit went down, the damage started trickling in at about 10% per hit, and within less than 4 volleys after that the shield was gone. So when I say 10% per hit, remember 10% per hit means the 10% which you see in the big rush, and then all of the ripple down as it comes down on the second effect from the rest of the fleet, the big ship hitting you once every few minutes. That's what's adding to that time. I know only 50% would have went within 5 hits if it was only 10%, but I'm omitting the drain down from the rest of the effect of the fleet being webbed, being disrupted, and everything else having an effect on it. So they got hit really heavy. The shield went down really fast. Then their armor went down like it wasn't there. It literally disappeared instantly, and the Nightmare was history. So in case you are thinking that the Nightmare can solo T10 Deadspace, that is not 100%. It is a very big risk, and it might be possible in one of the other within some of the factions, their Deadspaces are very easy, but the rewards are very low because their materials aren't really that sought after. So you might not be able to get that 2 billion ISK reward. So yeah, those are the negatives, and I'm really sorry about the way that I did put it out. That's because there is a solo player, you did lose. Most of the players who do Deadspace do it in teams of 3 to 5 players. I know T6, T7, T8 have been done soloed. A lot by players in Phantasms. T9 has been soloed by a player in a Nightmare. I think the same player who lost in the T10. He did it, and he said it almost cost him his ship in that there. He went down into armor. So yes, it does really take a toll on the ship. You have to be very careful about what you do in those activities. Okay, now when it comes to a T10 mission, these are the reasons why I say they have almost zero risk compared to the Deadspace. Elites do have a lot of firepower. They can really strip you down. But the strongest T10 elite ship isn't as powerful as a T10 faction vessel. So if you had a Nightmare, a Balgon, a Vindicator, Rattlesnake, you're literally going to eat through it like it wasn't there. It's going to be sniped, gone, out of the picture. And that is how it will go for just 90% of those activities. You're going to take out those big ships, all of the elites are going to be gone, and you're going to be playing around with small fish while you recover your shield and your capacitor. Once everything is recovered, you're in the next wave. Same thing, take out the big fish, recover most of your shield, even if you do take some damage into your armor. Take out all of the small stuff, you're 100% again. Next wave, same activity. You just keep repeating it. You might take like 40 or 50% of your armor out. That's going to cost you about 6 million to repair if you're going that risky. If you want to play the kite game and you're playing it at a distance, it's going to be 0 damage for you to repair, and it's literally as easy as 1 to 3 to take them out. And yes, I was counting on the fastest clearance with T10 battleships, because T10 battleships are really the fastest when it comes to taking on the T10 encounter. And as I did say, it's between 45 to 1.5 hours. 1.5 hours is a battle cruiser time for these activities. Okay, so let's see, I'm only at 21 minutes. I know that this hasn't been the most informative. My facts are still not 100% on all of these. So the minimum values are minimum values. So minimum for the 2 is always correct. The minimums are all correct as far as I do know. So it's 300 versus 0 for the T10. It is 80 versus 10 for the Inquisitor. It is, sorry, let's go with the next one. Remember, these are because a single player, I have to take that as the minimum. The next one that I do have is the small, which is 22 mil versus 10 mil. Again, I'm going to reduce it to 10 mil, even though I do know that I haven't heard of anyone pulling in smaller in a T10. But let's just go with 10 mil just to make sure that it doesn't beat the Scout, beat the Inquisitor, because the Inquisitor is the higher paying of the 2 activities generally. Wait, I am omitting something from the 2. Wait, let me just correct it. The Inquisitor is 30 million on the minimum because of the reward from killing the enemies within it, being 20 million even in T10 at the moment. Sorry, no, it's more. 50 million versus 60. So those are the 50 million versus 80, that's being the minimum. And for the Scout, the minimum is 30 million plus 10, that's 40 million versus the 22 million from the T6 activity, which you can do 4 in that exact same time. So it's not exactly that easy calculation. It's going to be 188 versus 50 mil being the comparison over there. 88 million versus 50 million, that is the 2 comparison. That is the lowest value on your T5 missions, T6 missions, sorry, versus your Scout. So those are the final figures. I know that it took me a bit long to summarize everything at the end. If you didn't catch this part, I will give you a comment to go look at the end of the video in the last few minutes, because that's guaranteed where you're going to get me summarizing everything and taking out any of my mistakes. I am human. I actually don't have a script completely done for this year. Most of this year was done based on the fact that I am doing this for myself. I've been working on this for a few days, figuring out whether it's worthwhile to be in low sec, not low sec, in high sec. And yes, it is. From what I am judging, if I have to go and pair myself up with a Nightmare over here, With the Nightmare, I'll be able to do everything from T6 to T10 solo. That means I can make 300 mil solo on my own. And yeah, that's going to be way more than I would in nullsec. In nullsec, here is something else about the activities that I haven't added into it. You can always get the activity instantly. How can you always get it? Go to your nearest ICT, place an order for the missions at about 1 or 2 mil lower than the asking value that people are putting it up on the market for. Someone is bound to just go jump on and give it to you. So that is how you can do it. You can easily get missions that quickly. And for spawning dead spaces, requires you to rat for hours. It might even require you to rat for days before a dead space may spawn. Inquisitors and scouts, maybe 1 or 2 a day is guaranteed for a sector when you're ratting completely all day long. So yeah, those are the activity rewards, bonuses. In terms of time frame, the one is instant, the one isn't always instant, the one you can find all the time, the one you can't find all the time. And if you compare them, Inquisitor Scout and Dead Space are maybes. They're always maybes, and their minimum values are always very, very low. The risk assessment for those areas is always there's a chance of you getting attacked by unknown players and having 0 reward from your activity. It's actually minus reward from the activity. So yeah, those are the risks. It's a high risk, high reward area, but it isn't as high reward as it once was. Due to them making these effects into the bounties, that is the big thing that has been put into effect. I hope that you do understand that part of my video. And last but not least, before I jump off this, all of you in PvE Defense Force, I am up in high sec at the moment. I know that you have asked to rat with me. You've asked to do some missions with me. Hit up my game tag, Elementary 72. There is only one Elementary 72, exactly how it's spelled on my channel. Hit me up in the game. I'm on for most of the day, and sometimes I'm not available completely. I'll give you a heads up to whether or not I'm around, and I'll let you join me in for some ratting. That's basically going after the encounters. We'll do it in high sec together just so that you have security, since it is known that I do have the ability to gank. So yes, stick with me in high sec. We won't go into low sec together. We can do as much as we want up here, build a nice strong friendship, have a nice community, and at the very best of it, I would literally put out a reward for players to give me T10 missions from the PvE Defense Force. So anybody who wants to have a solid income coming in, try and hit up the PvE Defense Force. There's a possibility that I'm going to be buying missions from them on a stable base every single day, at least 2, 3, 4 T10 missions. So join PvE Defense Force. It's going to go only through them that I will purchase these things. So have a good day and join the PvE Defense Force. Thank you all for watching.